You're watching the Now Morning Show, the final one for 2023, and it's only fitting then that we take a little bit of a look back at some of the popular things and fun things that we did here on the Now Morning Show.
This is,
Now,
can I tell you how much I appreciate that you always tie in the song that I'm playing with whatever your intro is? I just wanted to let you know that before the year ended. Carry on.
Smartly. But we do have a lot to look back on. I mean, as much as it feels like last week was February, we do a lot of intense and incredible interviews and have many, many heart-filling moments that sometimes we don't get to really take in until we take it in after the fact.
Yeah, and I realize that often, you know, like sometimes I go online and I would see a video pop up on YouTube of an old interview that we've done like 2 years ago or something, and I was like, wait, this was actually a pretty good interview. This was a good moment. And I go back to the moment like I lived in that moment.
Correct.
But because we do the show every single day, we don't really get the opportunity to reflect on it very often. So
and
I'm really
not
happy.
just every single day. I think how quickly time flies for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we get that countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like, we don't get the time to live in the moment almost.
Yeah.
And so this is our opportunity to do a little bit of that. Some of which would have, of course, been very hard-hitting and very significant things, not just to us here in TTT, but to Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean, and the world altogether. And it's very iconic that we have the opportunity to shine the lights, the spotlights, on some of our favorite interviews this morning.
The Ashanti Kingdom is located in Ghana, in West Africa, and it dates back to the 17th century from the time of the founder of the Ashanti Nation, the first Asante Hene, King Osei the First, who reigned from 1697 to 1717. And then we've had 15 kings after him. We currently have the 16th occupant of the Golden Stool, who also in direct succession to King Osei the First is also named King Osei II.
Right.
And he's reigned from 1999 till now. And we've had numerous kings, but what is very key is that Asante has always been stable. So Asante is a very proud nation, full of pomp and circumstance, and we've always been at the forefront of royalty in Africa. And if it would be remiss of me to say, if I do not also let you know that for generations, a lot of kingdoms, even in developed countries, in France, in Russia, have all succumbed, but the Ashanti Nation has still stood going.
Visa that you have sort of determines what is your purpose of visit, right? So there's students, there are exchange visitors, there are transits, there are people who are going to pilots and whatnot. Every visa or every entry into the United States must come with a purpose, and it must have an associated visa with it. So I just wanted to also just kind of share with artists and musicians that sometimes it can be very difficult to understand, am I here? Can I use my tourist visa? Can I work on my tourist visa? What if I'm just going to a show and I'm going to be, just the DJ, or I'm going to perform 1 or 2 songs? Again, it's your purpose for that travel. So when you enter the United States, you have to be really clear about what you're doing, and they'll ask you that at port of entry. They'll say, well, what are you here to do? Oh, I'm here to study. They'll see that you have a B1, B2 visa, which is a tourist visa, and they'll say, well, that's not the right visa classification. Or they'll look up online and they'll see that you've been performing in the United States on your B1, B2 visa. They'll cancel it and you'll get sent back to Trinidad and Tobago. So you always need to understand, what is it I'm going to be doing in the United States on this trip? So now tourist visas, those are called B1, B2s, those are valid for 10 years. So people have them for a really long time, and they're going in and out, they're going shopping, they're going to weddings. They may go and participate in Miami Carnival. We want people to go and participate in Miami Carnival. We need the Trinbagonians in Miami, New York, wherever, for our parties, because they bring the vibes.
One of the key issues we're looking at in the region as a whole is the issue of food security. The region is one of the high-cost areas for satisfying food consumption and the food basket. So we're working on a new program announced by Secretary of State Blinken last week, or when he was here in Trinidad and Tobago, that will help farmers in Trinidad and Tobago to produce nutritious fruits and vegetables, for example, work with extension workers and link to markets. That's one example of what we're doing. We're also going to do more in the area of trafficking in persons to help the authorities in particular be able to identify, investigate, and prosecute trafficking.
There is reform is going to change a lot of how representatives, elected representatives, are able to actually represent those people that they are tasked with that responsibility for. And while yes, there are still going to be capital projects being paving of roads, being larger local government issues. The truth is that a lot of the frustration that is felt by the average citizen is not in those big capital projects, but it's in the small niggling issues. It's the small issues that while you know that these things are happening, but your curb is broken, your drain is broken, there's a pothole in front of your house.
Garbage collection.
It's garbage collection every single day. And you have touched it there. Garbage collection is a major issue because very often you have garbage or the abundance of it very often defining communities. So you, as a child going to school, it's the last thing you see after you leave your house or the first thing you see when you come home. And all of these things are going to be directly impacted by local government reform.
Some profound words there from some of our very important guests that we shone the spotlight on here on Now as we look back at a fantastic year. You'd have seen, of course, our line minister and Simon Denor Brega speaking specifically on local government reform. Before that, we heard conversations of U.S. aid programs offered in the Caribbean. Very insightful stuff. Of course, we get the confirmation that we already knew Trinbagonians bring the vibe to the U.S. parties when Chief Sydney of the U.S. Embassy spoke on the performing arts and visas that are necessary. So that travel was a big conversation there. And of course, when royalty touched down in Trinidad and Tobago, we had to make sure we shone a spotlight on that as well.
Most definitely. And one of the things that I really love about working on the show, and somebody actually commented on it to me last night, was that they love when we do theme shows. So they love when we're able to come to work in pajamas, or we come to work with sequins, or whatever the case may be, whatever the theme is. And we've had quite a few of those themes over the year. And we can take a look back now at some of those shows in particular.
I'm stressed now.
By the police station, by the warden's office. He spoke to a young ward officer and was amused to see him, but to be listening intently. At last, Pa Harris was finished. The ward officer looked up and said, "When?" "Up to last night. Up to last night," Pa Harris said. "Up to last night. When I passed there, I see the thing plain. I tell you, it was not no mistake. It was a real spirit."
Hovering near their home, she immediately screamed for her husband Larry and ran to the kitchen for the bag of salt she used to line the windows and doors before bed, keeping sukuya, jumbi, and similar nocturnal pestilences at bay. As she rifled through the cabinets, she heard a shrill cry from Hanley's bedroom, where she was asleep in her crib.
See the sense of the Vatican repudiating the doctrine of discovery, which is legal and moral framework, which was launched colonialism in that brutal way. The Anglican Church in January acknowledging its historic links to slavery. And this is just part of a much larger acknowledgement of the ravages of racism and white supremacy coming out of enslavement and the impact on our people up to today.
Interactions with men in general, how often does suicide come up?
In terms of a conversation?
Yeah.
Actually, a little bit more often than you might think, because a man get on, whether he's in high school or he's in his 30s, it has an effect. That's the word I'm looking for. So the question is, how do we manage that emotional intelligence? How do we ensure that it doesn't get to that point? So the short answer is it happens more often than anything, because even teenagers, their world is social media. So they get bullied and they feel bad, and they believe they're unable to show the face in school.
Feel bad. And being in a male-dominated environment, it has its challenges, because, as you know, some men, don't kill on me, hate to take instructions from ladies. It's almost like it's a male-dominated, who is her telling me to do this?
It's almost some sort of intimidation. Yes.
But you have to have the confidence, and once you know you are being fair and what you're doing is in the interests of the band, you go along, and they eventually will succumb, or they will follow your lead.
About my experience, we are so blessed in the PNM, and more so in the Women's League, to have persons like Miss Robinson Regis, Lisa Morris Julian, who's a member, my sisters who sit at my side, who all equally contribute to assisting each other. It's a sisterhood, and this is not just old talk. This is where we're able to come together, we're able to bounce ideas out of each other, we're able to support each other, because fundamentally that is one of the principles and one of the core values of the PNM's Women's League. Further to that, when the PNM's Women's League was created, what was also critical was that women should always have a place at the decision-making table.
First step of identification, what was your thoughts?
My first thought, honestly, was, what the hell is this? And then I, called my sister. I'm like, yo, come feel this. And that was odd for her, but we very quickly realized, okay, this is different. This feels odd. Let's go do an ultrasound. And I went to the Cancer Society. I did an ultrasound. They called me back to do a biopsy. And shortly after, I was diagnosed with stage 1 invasive ductal carcinoma.
In terms of your journey, what is that keeps you going and keeps you staying positive about all of it?
Okay, the fact that I'm alive,
right.
number
That's
one,
that's
a good place to start. And secondly, I would say the fact that I get to do things like this. I get to share my journey with people, so I have the opportunity to inspire people and to motivate people into doing things that they need to do to have a better lifestyle. Okay, so a lot of people say, but I used to exercise and I was eating the right foods and all kind of things, but still, that doesn't mean that you stop doing that.
Right.
That kind of helped you. Just imagine if
how much worse it would have been.
Exactly.
Wow, it's very, very interesting when you sit down and recap some of these things. Because I remember some of those interviews, some of those moments. In particular, let me say good morning to Mark Anthony and DK Rosta. They would have been here when we did the International Men's Day, featuring an all-male cast. And we did it for the first time, I think, this time around. And it went well, and we had some very, very interesting conversation. I know oftentimes we get to do the International Women's Day and have an all-female cast. So we did that. And of course, we had a whole bunch of other things that you would have seen and reminisced on with us, and we move on. Shall we?
Shall we?
Let's.
We shall, because we do want to talk about some of the celebrities that we had the pleasure of interviewing here on in our morning show, whether it be virtually or on set. Take a look, guys.
My mom used to say, education is your passport to life. You go to school and you learn, because once you have an education, no one can take it away from you. And she was so right. All her 6 children have used that education that we've given, that special gift of education, and used it in the right way. And what I have done through my work, especially my book Coming to England, I talked about what it's like to be Trinidadian. I've talked about what it's like to come from a different culture and how you, how you make your life, how you progress through life, no matter what adversity you have to face. And I wrote that book 30 years ago. It's now in every single school on the national curriculum here in Britain. And 2 years ago, I wrote a picture book version of it called Coming to England for 4 to 7 year olds. Because I think childhood lasts a lifetime. And if we can get children from a very, very young age to show them that everything they're learning, everything they're absorbing will stay with them, it's important, especially diversity and inclusion. And these 4-year-olds, 7-year-olds are writing to me every day. Even yesterday I got a pile of letters, sort of children telling me that they're reading the book. They know where Trinidad is. When I came to England, they didn't know where Trinidad is. They didn't know where Trinidad is. What are you doing here? Go back to where you come from. Now they know where Trinidad is. They want to be Trinidadian. They know all about the Windrush story. The Windrush story of people leaving the Caribbean, coming to Britain after the war, trying to make a life for themselves, coming to rebuild Britain, being told you're British. No, they didn't understand that when I came back in 1960. Now they do. And these little children, they're naming their class after me, their school after me, their house after me, and they're saying, Floella, when I grow up, I want to be you. I want to be you.
I have so many, you know. I started so young, and also being like the first female comedian from the Caribbean, I was offered so many opportunities, you know, travel the world representing Trinidad and Tobago. I think one of my proudest moments, besides like my personal things, like, you know, like my Nikki Land and those things I'm really proud of, you know, representing Trinidad at the Apollo was one of my favorite things of all time, I think. You know, the history behind the Apollo, how many great artists passed through there, and as a Trinidadian, Errol and I had represented at the Apollo, and it was really, you know, one of the first Trinis to be there, and you know, those are another one was the Montreal Comedy Festival. That's huge, where they invite comedians from all around the world to represent, and that's where you have a lot of agents and a lot of LA people there. So those are the kind of things I'm proud of when I had to represent my country, you know, with a crown on my head.
Well, you know, I am incredibly honored. Really, I am. I was telling somebody the other day, you know, sometimes as a child, you make goals in your head, you know, so I always try to say, okay, what is the best in my field? So if I'm on Broadway, the best thing I can get is a Tony. If I'm on television, the best thing I can get is an Emmy. But even my little puny mind, I think, even with all those dreams, never thought, hey, maybe one day you'll get an honorary degree, an honorary doctorate from UWI, you know. So I think this one's a little sweeter because it's just something I guess I wasn't thinking about. You know, it wasn't in my head. So it's been great. I've been making my children call me Dr. Headley.
You know, I always say this. You don't have to worry about culture. Stars promote culture. Superstars shift culture. You know what I'm saying? And when I say superstar, you're talking about a star that has, an artist that has superhero-like talent, superhero-like work ethic, superhero-like drive, superhero-like you know, charm and personality. That when they walk in a room, they're just like, oh my God, who is that? Yeah. You know, shaking. When Yellow Man came out, reggae music was nothing. But the world stopped and took notice. When Shabba Ranks came out, he only sold gold, you know. But when he walks in a room, you're like, who the hell is this guy? Him smell like 50 block perfume back in full of jewels. And him a walk with a swagger. You know what I mean? Those people have moved culture. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that is what everything boils down to artist development and being that superstar. Right? And the minute you guys cultivate that one person will be able to shift your culture and move it towards a different place.
The beauty of stars and superstars who have changed culture both locally and abroad. Some really inspiring and awe-striking moments.
Watch
here
now,
on
we
the
do some
Now.
good work here.
Listen, no, get them taken.
Yeah, boy. So now watching, I'm like, well, wait, now we do some good work over here.
I never doubted that, but I think the impact of it, we do get to revel in, we do get to marinate in, and these moments allow us to do that. So it's been a good day.
We had lots of proper quotable moments there, and I'm really happy we were able to pull out some. Big up to Tyrese this morning. Tyrese Maurice is one of our technical producers here at the Now Morning Show, and he took the time to pull all these clips and put them together for us to be able to go through. I can sit and remember in that Shaggy interview, and he had so many gems in that interview. Floella Benjamin in her interview had so many gems as well. Of course, we learn from all these people and their lessons, and because they've achieved things that some of us are hoping to achieve, that some of us are on the path to achieving, that some of us just hear about and curious about, but they're able to learn from them and share some of their wisdom, and big up to them for that.
Like
Every
Shaggy
single
said,
time.
stars shifting the culture.
Yeah, boy.
I mean,
Superstars shift the culture.
Superstars shifting the
culture. Stars can affect the culture, but superstars shift the culture. And one thing we try to do is make sure we shift focus to Tobago every single Thursday to give you Tobago Thursdays here at the Now Morning Show. And we're going to give you a recap of some of those Tobago Thursdays. Let me say good morning to Sophie, our Tobago producer, who's always on the ball every single week, giving us the updates from Tobago and helping us out with artists, with bookings, with interviews, with every single thing. Check out some Tobago Thursday recap videos. Check this out.
It started in the village of Lansfony, and it was a rural community village event that started off with some key pioneers in the village of Lansfony. During those days, we had people like Binley Benjamin and Stanley Baird in the governance halls, and they were also part of making sure this came off. And then several years later, we added the villages of Bloody Bay and Palotive later on. And that became necessary because we needed to have more cooks. But the festival was moved from 150, 200 persons now to 2,000 persons and so on. Wow. And we had to also shift the venue from in the village of Lansfony to a broader area on the recreational ground in Bloody Bay. And since then, we have now made all the adjustments down in that area. I think it's important to say, you said something very nice, silver anniversary, it's great, 25 years, but even beyond that, in this year, they've already started, the Tobago House of Assembly has started a permanent Blue Food Village. So we're gonna have some of those areas actually to use for this year as the work continues throughout the year to finish in time for next year. So those are two great things that are happening at this time.
The mayor seeing us perform at the San Francisco Carnival Parade, her team reached out to my PR, Shante Williams, and made it happen. They wanted something very different there. And we went there and let's just say it like this, they want us back next year.
I think the reason that we've been winning the awards is the taste of the cocoa tea, or the Tobago Gold, where we reduced a lot of the sugar and calories and instead added the cocoa taste and the spices from the Caribbean. Now, so that's the reason we've been winning the awards, I think. So people appreciate that around the world. And the awards we've been winning that are the most outstanding, I think, is the largest show in the world, which is San Francisco Wine and Spirit Show, and also in London, which is the #1 in Europe. And most recently, we won the first award in Asia in Hong Kong. That's about a month ago.
It's because of the design of the wheelchair, the wheels, and the safety features. It can move across from the parking area, over the asphalt, into the grassy areas, the sandy areas, and into the water. So in terms of access to the entire compound, the wheelchair gives that, where previously persons with disability issues, with mobility challenges would have been limited to, say, particular areas of the compound.
The racing has developed into class racing, which is basically the speed classes that we have. The 60, 70, 80, 95, 110, 120, and 130. So they have different classes of boats of what speed they're allowed to go up to.
Those numbers are the speed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Miles per hour.
Right.
So with that, the times have then been staggered. So instead of everybody starting at 8 a.m. like they used to, it is now, boats will begin to leave at 7:15, and they will have start times going all the way up to 8 o'clock.
What has happened over the years with the introduction of the class racing
you will never really have a small boat beating a big boat, right? You're now limited with speed. So in years, what you'd see is there was always the fastest boat being introduced now. But the fastest boat isn't the Great Race winner. That's just the record that we've had.
All right, so that one there, recapping some Tobago Thursdays. Again, we say thank you so much to Sophie, who is our Tobago Connect, our Tobago Linky. And we appreciate all the work that you do. And we appreciate everybody in Tobago who's always tuned into the Now Morning Show. Whenever we go across, there's always love. Tobago is love, and we appreciate it so very much. I mean, I'm kind of sorry we didn't get to do any of the Carnival
Listen, I
videos.
just had the flashback of me standing in the raincoat to cover Tobago Carnival.
That wasn't this year.
I know it wasn't this year, but I was like, hold on, we didn't do anything for the Carnival.
No,
But Tobago is...
unfortunately. Hopefully, next year we'll be able to fix that. And that's the beauty of looking back at the years, that we can see some of the things that we need to improve on as
And
well.
plan ahead.
And plan ahead as we go forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we still have a lot in store, including your birthdays. So stay tuned. It's the Now Morning Show. We still have more recap videos for you. So just hold tight. We're coming back.